Number sign is a name for the symbol, which is used for a variety of purposes, including the designation of a number. In recent years, it has been used for hashtagging on social media websites. The term number sign is most commonly used when the symbol is used before a number. In the United States, the term pound sign is catching on. The telephone key is called the pound key. Outside of North America, the symbol is called hash and the corresponding telephone key is called the hash key. The symbol is defined in Unicode as U+0023 number sign. The symbol may be confused with the musical symbol called sharp. In both symbols, there are two pairs of parallel lines. The main difference is that the number sign has two horizontal strokes while the sharp sign has two slanted parallel lines which must rise from left to right, in order to avoid being confused with the musical staff lines. Origin and usage and naming conventions in North America. Mainstream use in the United States is as follows: when it precedes a number, it is read as number, as in a number 2 pencil. A theory claims that back in early 1900s, the teletype corporation was the first to use to mean number. When the symbol follows a number, the symbol indicates weight in pounds. This informal usage still finds handwritten use, and may be seen on some signs in markets and groceries. It is often claimed that the pound symbol derives from a series of abbreviations for pound, the unit of weight. The theory goes that at first LB was used. However, printers later designed a font containing a special symbol of an LB with a line through the verticals so that the lowercase letter L would not be mistaken for the numeral 1. Unicode character U+2114 ALB bar symbol is a cursive development of this symbol. Ultimately, the symbol was reduced for clarity as an overlay of two horizontal strokes equal across two forward/like strokes. Keith Gordon Irwin, in The Romance of Writing, PA 125, says the Italian libra represented a weight almost exactly equal to the avoirdupois pound of England. The Italian abbreviation of LB with a line drawn across the letters, A, was used for both weights. An alternative theory is that the name a euro or a pound sign a euro is a result of the fact that character encodings have historically used the same code for both the hash symbol and the British pound sign a pound. It is sometimes supposed that the problem originated in ISO 646 GB, but it seems more likely that it has its origin in Bordeaux code in the late 19th century. In Canada, the symbol is commonly called the number sign. Major telephone equipment manufacturers, such as Nortel, have an option in their programming to denote Canadian English, which in turn instructs the system to say number sign to callers instead of pound sign. Usage in the United Kingdom and Ireland. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, the symbol is most often called the hash. It is never used to denote pounds weight or pounds sterling. It is never called the pound sign, because that term is understood to mean the currency symbol a pound, for pound sterling or Irish pound. While the use of pound as an abbreviation for number is widely understood in Britain and Ireland, it is generally not used. Where Americans might write Symphony No. 5, the British and Irish are more likely to write Symphony No. 5, or perhaps use the numero sign Symphonia 5. To add to the confusion between a pound and pound, in BS 4730, 0x23 represents a pound whereas in ASCII, it represents pound. It was thus common, when systems were incorrectly configured, for a pound to be displayed as pound and vice versa. Other names in English. The symbol has many other names in English: comment signer, taken from its use in many shell scripts and some programming languages to start comments. Crosser, in China, non-native English speakers often refer to the number sign as cross. It is said as jiang in Chinese, as it looks like the Chinese character for water well. Hexa, common usage in Singapore and Malaysia, as spoken by many recorded telephone directory assistance menus. Please enter your phone number followed by the hex key. The term hex is discouraged in Singapore in favor of hash. Octatop, octatherp, used by Bell Labs engineers by 1968. Lauren Aspun says that he and a colleague were the source of octatop at AT&T Engineering in New York in 1964. The Merriam-Webster New Book of Word Histories, 1991, has a long article that is consistent with Doug Kerr's essay, in that it says octotherp was the original spelling, and that the word arose in the 1960s among telephone engineers as a joke. The first appearance of octothorpe in a U.S. patent is in a 1973 filing which also refers to the six-pointed asterisk used on telephone buttons as a sextile. Sharper, resemblance to the glyph used in music notation, U+266F. So-called in the name of the Microsoft programming languages C, J and F. However, Microsoft says it's not the hash symbol as most people believe. It's actually supposed to be the musical sharp symbol. However, because the sharp symbol is not present on the standard keyboard, it's easier to type the hash symbol. The name of the language is, of course, pronounced C#. According to the ECMA 334C language specification, Section 6, Acronyms and Abbreviations, the name of the language is written C followed by the number sign and pronounced C#. Spatia, used in proofreading to denote that a space should be inserted. This can mean, a line space, a hair space, a word space, or letter space. M and N spaces are denoted by a square-shaped M or N quad character. Squarea, occasionally used in the UK or Euro especially during the Prestel era, when the symbol was a page address delimiter. The International Telecommunications Union specification ITU-TE 161 3.2.2 states, the is to be known as a square or the most commonly used equivalent term in other languages. A thursa, crosshatch, fence, mesh, flash, grid, pig pen, tic-tac-toe, scratch, gate, hack, oof, rake, crunch, punch mark, sink, corridor, and waffle. In mathematics, in set theory, S is the cardinality of the set S. That is, for a set, in topology, where A and B are manifolds, AB is the manifold's connected sum. In knot theory, where A and B are knots, AB is the knot's knot sum. In number theory, N is the primorial of N. In computing, in many scripting languages and data file formats, especially ones that originated on Unix, the introducer is a comment that goes to the end of the line. The combination at the start of an executable file is a shebang, or hash bang, used to tell the operating system which program to use to run the script. This combination was chosen so it would be a comment in the scripting languages. Is the symbol of the Crunchbang Linux distribution. In the Perl programming language, is used as a modifier to array syntax to return the index number of the last element in the array. For example, at array's last element is at $array, $array. The number of elements in an array is $array plus 1, since Perl arrays default to using zero-based indices. If the array has not been defined, the return is also undefined. If the array is defined but has not had any elements assigned to it, for example, at array equals, then $array returns a 1. See the section on array functions in the Perl language structure article. In the C preprocessor, is used to start a preprocessor directive. Inside macros it is used for various purposes, including the double pound sign used for token concatenation. In Unix shells, is placed by convention at the end of a command prompt to denote that the user is working as root. Is used in a URL of a web page or other resource to introduce a fragment identifier and id which defines a position within that resource. For example, in the URL http, Wikipedia.org number sign in computing the portion after the is the fragment identifier, in this case denoting that the display should be moved to show the tag marked by span id in computing. /span in the HTML. Internet relay chat, on servers, precedes the name of every channel that is available across an entire IRC network. In blogs, is sometimes used to denote a permalink for that particular weblog entry. On social networking sites such as Twitter, is used to denote a metadata tag, or hashtag. This influence has also spread into television, such as the hashtag heel wrestler in WWE. In lightweight markup languages, such as Wikitext, is often used to introduce numbered list items. In OCaml, is the operator used to call a method. In Common Lisp and Scheme, is the prefix for certain syntax with special meaning. in standard MIL, when prefixed to a field name, becomes a projection function. Also, prefix is a string literal to turn it into a character literal. In Mathematica syntax, when used as a variable, becomes a pure function. In LaTeX, when prefixing a number, references and arguments for a user-defined command. For instance, \new command \code 1 \texttt number 1. In JavaDoc, is used with the ASCII tag to introduce or separate a field, constructor, or method member from its containing class. In some dialects of assembly language, is used to denote immediate mode addressing, for example, LDA number 10, which means load the accumulator with the value 10 in MOS 6502 assembly language. In HTML, CSS, SVG, and other computing applications, pound is used to identify a color specified in hexadecimal format, for example, FFAAOO. This usage comes from X11 color specifications, which inherited it from some obscure languages that used pound to prefix hexadecimal constants. In bmusic script, every command line starts from. Any line starts from other than will be considered as comments. In popular culture, Rainy Day Women No. 12 and 35 is the title of a song by Bob Dylan, released as a single and the opening track of his 1966 album, Blonde on Blonde. Other uses, press releases, the notation denotes end, that is that there is no further copy to come. Chess notation, after a move denotes checkmate, being easier to type than the traditional euro. Scrabble, putting a number sign after a word indicates that the word is found in the British word lists, but not the North American lists. Prescription drug delimiter, in some countries, such as Norway or Poland, is used as a delimiter between different drugs on medical prescriptions. Copywriting and editing, technical writers often use 3# signs as a marker in text where more content will be added or there are errors to be corrected. Mining, in underground mining, the hash sign is sometimes used as a shorthand for seam, or shaft. An example would be for, which would mean for shaft, or for seam depending on the context. Medical shorthand, is often used to indicate a bone fracture. For example, NOF is often used for fractured neck of femur. In linguistic phonology, denotes a word boundary. For instance, t / means that becomes t when it is the last segment in a word. In linguistic syntax, before an example sentence denotes that the sentence is semantically ill-formed, though grammatically well-formed. For instance, the toothbrush is pregnant is a grammatical sentence, but the meaning is odd. In teletext and DVB subtitles in the UK, the symbol is used to mark text that is sung either by a character or heard in background music. For example, for He's a Jolly Good Fellow, the use of the symbol in a hashtag is a phenomenon conceived by Chris Messina, and popularized by social media network Twitter, as a way to direct conversations and topics amongst users. Unicode, in Unicode, several characters are assigned. U+0023 number sign. Other accepted names in Unicode are, £, hash, crosshatch, octet hop. U+FF0301 quarter florin full width number sign, U+FE5FI to the first Y small number sign, U+E0023 tag number sign. In other languages or scripts, U+06000 Euro-Arabic number sign, U+OBFA a Tamil number sign, U+110BD Kethi number sign. Related characters, the sharp sign and musical notation, U+266F unregistered trademark music sharp sign, U+1D12ATH musical symbol double sharp, U+1D130TH degree musical symbol sharp up, U+1D131TH plus or minus musical symbol sharp down, U+1D132TH squared musical symbol quarter tone sharp. On keyboards, on the standard US keyboard layout, the symbol is a section shift +3. On standard UK and some European keyboards, the same keystrokes produce the pound currency symbol, and is moved to a separate key above the right shift. On UK Mac keyboards, is generated by Alt+Up +3, whereas on European Mac keyboards, that can be found above the right shift key. References